In today's instalment, I show you what's hiding behind this door. Things move by themselves, and I wave my arm.
Around here. It's been 11 weeks now since my BMW E31 8 Series was dropped off at Auto Resto for the bodywork restoration project to begin. That's almost as long as it's been since I've had a haircut. In earlier episodes, I'll include links to those in the description below if you've not already seen them. I shared with you progress updates on the project, and that included such things as the roof having to been taken completely off, rust being discovered on the rear jack-in points and behind rubber door seals. So old BMWs really do rust. I'm about to head to Auto Resto for an update, so grab yourselves a beverage of choice and keep watching to find out what's been going on. Stick around to the end because I'll be giving a tour of all the other cars currently in the workshop, and of course the usual outtakes and detailed stills images at the end. So here's the car, looking rather sorry for itself, and jacked up even higher on the rear end than last time I was here. And that's been to enable better access to the rear jack-in points for the guys. The biggest difference since I was last here is obviously the rear bumper has been removed, which has been a mammoth task in itself. The bolts had been soaked over and over for several weeks to try and loosen them up, but were pretty much rusted and fused into place, and in the end they had to be cut out with some quite serious power tools. You can just see the rear bumper over in the background, and so yes, let's have a look in more detail at the work that's been done since the last instalment. Okay, so here we have the rear jack-in point on the passenger side. The outer skin, the outer metal, has been cut away now to reveal the structure of the jack-in point here beneath it, which actually in itself is really strong, and other than the pitting that we can see, you can see a little bit of it here, actually was nowhere near as bad as it could have been. So the proposed solution here is that there'll be some chemical rust remover used on the structure itself, and the new outer skin will be welded in place and essentially wax oiled to death, and that'll be the same on the driver's side as well. It's just a little bit further away, further along on the passenger side, which is why I thought I'd show you this. And if you just excuse my camera work, I can't get the tripod down this low to look up. I just wanted to show you the metal that's come out from this side. So we can see this piece here, and again throw it away, and this one you can see all the pitting on it. Look. In the last instalment we saw that the area of rust just inside the passenger door behind the seal had been cut away. It was like a section here. That's been cut away and new metal put in, and again in front of the rear arch here, that's all been new metal welded in and filler used to shape it all up. So those areas are ready for paint, I'd imagine, when we get to that stage. So that's really positive movement on the passenger side of the car, as well as the work that's been done on the passenger side behind the seal on the inner door is work that's been done on the outer skin of the door itself. When I bought the car 2.5 years ago, there was an arrow straight crease in the skin around here, clearly a parking incident that the car had at some point in its previous life, and not all that noticeable, but I thought as the car had been brought in for all the other work to be done, and the door panel itself was going to be having some rust repairs, that it would made sense to have it straightened out. So that's what this area of filler is all about. Moving on to the driver's side of the car now, we can see again in front of the rear arch here, the metal has been cut out, and I've got the piece here, so that lived there. And it's really interesting, isn't it, just to see how much the rust had eaten away. It's quite intriguing, actually. So that's the piece that has come away from there, and again, much the same on the rear jacking point. I'm not going to get the camera onto this side, but just to show you the metal, the skin that's been cut off is here. And again, you can see it's really badly pitted. But again, overall, the jacking points themselves, the structure, are actually in pretty good nick. So other than a bit of pitting, the rust treatment and a new skin and a bit of wax oil will sort all that out. Moving along now to the driver's door. And this is the area on the passenger side where we had to cut a big piece out and put new in. Much better condition on this side. We're not going to need to do that. You can see where the grinder's been used to clean it all back up a little bit. What we're going to possibly need to look at a little bit more closely on this side is along the seam here. I'm not sure whether the camera will pick it up, but here, here, just a little bit there as well. There's just a tiny little bit of bubbling, just poking through. Obviously the one option is to cut the seam away and see how far back that goes and cut out. But again, it's how far do you want to go. So the reality is probably going to be that the grinder will be used to clean this back as best we can along there, and then just a little bit of rust treatment on it will be used, and that should keep it good for many years. Whilst I've got the driver's door open, I just wanted to show you some of the rust that's going to be addressed here in the weeks ahead. Most noticeably on the driver's door is just on the edge here. You can see the corrosion poking on the corner. Again, it's not bad at all. That will be addressed. Now on the passenger side, this bit here is completely fine. It's really good. But what we do have is just a bit further along the lip in the middle is a little bit of corrosion like this. So again, that's going to be addressed. So here we have the rear bumper and the impact bar, or the carrier as it's known, that's attached to the inside of it. The bumper itself obviously is plastic and in really good condition, so other than a good clean, that doesn't need any further attention. The carrier itself, we can see, is starting to show signs of its age, 23 years old now, and we can see the corrosion here, here. In itself, as a structure, it's in really good condition. The car's clearly had no rear impact in the past, which is always good to learn. But what we are going to do is find another company here in South Wales who do blasting, and possibly vapor blasting, because that's less invasive than sand blasting, to basically blast it back and wet dip it so that it looks brand new, and then we can put it all back together. The interesting thing with the bumper, I mentioned earlier on that the bumper was a real nightmare to get off because the bolts had fused in place so much. So let's have a look at them. Now there are 4 bolts that attach the car, attach the carrier to the structure of the car, 2 on each side. So if we look on this side, we can actually see the 2 bolts here and here are still there. They've had to be cut out, and on this side we can still see the one there, and this is the one that did give up and come out, although you can see that's definitely not going to be used again. Now these bolts BMW no longer sell. What they will do out of the kindness of their own hearts is sell you a new carrier. at over £400 plus VAT, and for that they will send 4 of these bolts with it. But we don't need a new carrier, so all we need are the 4 bolts. So the first thing I'm going to do is reach out to the owners community on Facebook and WhatsApp group to see, firstly, does anybody know what these bolts are called? What are the part number? And secondly, where can you get hold of them? Does anyone have any lying around? Be more than willing to speak to them and buy them off them. The alternative is to use just some generic bolts and to weld them in place. Possibly when they're in place, then just grind the top edge here back, because it's deeper than the original bolt. And then we'd obviously need to cut it off as well to be the same sort of size. But yeah, a practical solution perhaps to the problem if we can't find these original bolts. Now that we have the rear bumper off, we can see the brackets that the carrier bar itself attached to, and one is here and one is on the other side, and much like the carrier itself, they're looking a little bit worse for wear given their age. So what we're going to do is soak the bolts here for a while and see if we can loosen them off, get these brackets off, and they can go off to the blaster along with the carrier, and then we are sure that everything behind the bumper on the back is all good as new. But other than that, everything okay. We can see bits here. This is all the dirt that has come off with the bumper, but actually the rest of the structure out back is good. There's a couple of bolts further in the middle there, which will have a little bit of wire brushing back, but yeah, really good. That was 2 weeks ago. Today I'm back at Auto Resto and I'm delivering the rear impact bar and the brackets ready to be put back on the car after they've been sandblasted and powder coated. I just have to say how amazing the local car enthusiast scene is here in South Wales. After getting home from filming the last few segments, as I say, just 2 weeks ago, I put a post on social media, and within only a few hours I had somebody offering to have these done as part of a job they were having done on their own car. And I have to say, they look absolutely fabulous. For £70, that's what it's cost to have all these done and refurbished. They look fabulous. I'm not going to unwrap them fully, but you can see here this is the new finish, looking really good. The impact bar, you can see that the new bolts are in there as well. We couldn't find BMW bolts, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, we've just fashioned some new bolts. So yes, we're here. Let's get them in and we'll see what other progress has been on the car. Now the car has been moved since the last time I was here, and we can now get access to the back end of the car. So I'll show you quickly what that is looking like. The bumper is off, and yeah, it's quite good. Okay, it's dirty. It's been 23 years since it was put together, but there's nothing scary going on here. We can see where the brackets came off. There's a bit of surface corrosion there that needs to be dealt with. We've got the 4 bolts in the middle that I mentioned earlier that will be wire brushed back. And again, we've got the brackets section here that has got a bit of like surface corrosion. But essentially, yeah, all this back end needs is a good scrub before it all gets put back together again. So on the passenger side, the rear jacking point has also had its new metal put in and filler shaped over the top. So let's have a quick look underneath. So that's looking really good. So now we're on the driver's side and not quite as far along as the passenger side. You can see the new metal's been put in and some filler over the top, and that still needs to be shaped, but just interesting to see the different stages. A little treat for you all now. A few people have asked in the comments to earlier videos, what are the other cars in the Auto Resto workshop having some work done on them right now? So let's have a quick look around. This first car that we can see, the white one, is a Mercedes 190E, a car that's becoming quite popular now as they get older and increasing in value. This one came in, as I understand it, for a little bit of paintwork, and it's turned into a full-on restoration. The car has some sentimental value to the owner, having belonged to another family member, as I understand it, and so it's being treated to a full-on restoration. I bet that's going to look fabulous when it's finished. If we pan around to the left now, this is a new one since I was last here, on a jig sideways, and I've never seen that before, so that's really interesting. And this is a Ford Escort RS 2000. So let's just have a quick look around that. And this is in for quite a lot of body work, as you can tell, being on a jig, completely stripped back. Fascinating, isn't it? Moving on, we've got an MGB, another one of the long-termers here at Auto Resto. The owner lives quite some way away, and the work's being done bit by bit as parts are sent to the team here. Then we've got my car, got a Jag S-Type in for a bit of work. Now look at these two tucked away in the corner. These are fabulous cars. So the silver one is a Mercedes 280 SE. I can never remember the W codes on them, but it's obviously an early one. The green one to the right is a Mercedes 200. I do think these early Mercedes are fabulous. A bit of an extra treat. Let's have a look in the paint booth. It's a forklift. No, behind the forklift. Look at that. A vintage Bentley in for some paint work. It's all covered over at the moment, but what a fabulous old car. So there we have it. That's what's in the Auto Resto workshop right now. So here we've got one of the rear wheels for the car, and you can see that typically it's a little bit worse for wear and showing its age. All around the edge you can see some pitting and curbing, not done by me, I might add, previous owners, and also some corrosion, and it's pretty much the same story on all four. The wheels are original to the car. They're a factory option, 17-inch BBS wheels, and these days are quite rare and sought after. With all the other work being done on the car, obviously it makes sense to have these done as well. Whether my budget is going to allow for that, I'm just going to have to wait and see where the project takes us. Interesting fact for the BMW E31 8 Series, I think it applies to other BMWs of this generation as well, and that is the badging on the rear. You can see that in between each number and the letter as well, that they're joined. Apparently that's because BMW accountants determined that it was cheaper to produce these badges all in one piece, and it's not as individual characters. Well, that brings us to the end of another instalment. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're enjoying following the restoration project. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of any future content, and I'll be back with you soon with another update on what's going on in there. Take care. In the last instalment we saw on the passenger side how in front of the rear arch this section had been cut away almost down like that. That's now been rebuilt and filler used to reshape it, and looking really good. And we can see here the